This is like that game. Did you ever play that game at Halloween time when you were a kid and you stuck your hand in some mystery box or hole to see what you were feeling and you had to guess what you were feeling? That's kind of what this feels like. I'm just kind of sticking my hand up this bird's butt and pulling all sorts of stuff out. Oh, there's the neck there. Yeah, this looks like it would be great for some stuffing. Hi everyone, welcome back. We are now at week 48. If this is not your first time here and you've been in the kitchen with us before, you probably already know that we're still at Nani's house. We're not in my kitchen. So we're going to be filming all of this today here. If this is your first time joining us, hello. My name is Ashley. I'm a registered dietitian and I have a love for all things vintage. I'm combining those two things, my love of food and my love of vintage, to bring you the 52 Sunday Dinners project. This project was inspired by this cookbook right here, the 52 Sunday Dinners project from Women's World magazine in 1924. They have a full menu for a dinner for 6 people every Sunday of the week with seasonality and economy in mind. Now, if you have not seen previous episodes and you want to go back and watch more, if you go into that playlist and you see that you can't find weeks 1 through 30, that's because we started this project in August. And since these dinners have seasonality in mind, we decided to start when they were intended instead of starting with week 1. We'll go through and complete this project at the end of July in 2024. So we are going to be doing just about every single recipe in here that we can do. This week's menu is the biggest one that we have ever made. On the menu this week is fruit cocktail to start. Then for our main dish, it's roast goose served with an apple prune sauce. There should also be stuffed olives. And I may be pronouncing this wrong, but I believe that it is Glace sweet potatoes, Duchesse potatoes, creamed celery, buttered Parker House rolls, head lettuce salad, cheese straws. Then for dessert, Lady Baltimore cake with brick ice cream and coffee. And for after that, salted almonds and after dinner mints. We have made the Parker House rolls before and the Duchesse potatoes. Also the stuffed olives, the brick ice cream, and I believe what else is on there? The almonds. Those are things that I don't think we would be making, or maybe we would, but we won't be including them here because there are only 2 of us eating this already humongous meal, so we're just going to leave those off for now. We also aren't going to recreate the Parker House rolls nor the Duchesse potatoes. However, I think at some point we will go back and make those Duchesse potatoes again, because the way that I made them the first time was not exactly correct, and you gave me some really great advice to make them correctly this time. So at some point, we'll probably go back and make those. And with all of that, we have our apron on. Let's get into the kitchen. think for the first time that we have done this, I might be able to bake this in the appropriate number of layers. We have the appropriate number of pans. There seems to be enough cake batter. I think I have learned enough from all of you guys and from experience that this is going to be a success this time. Let's find out. All right, I think we are almost there, although I'm a little concerned. It kind of smells like burning sugar a little bit. I think we're there. Hopefully we don't regret this, but it said to pour this out onto a platter. I don't know that we have a platter large enough for this. I talked to Nani, we consulted. We think that the countertop should be fine. We washed and greased the countertop, and we're gonna go ahead and pour this over. And it certainly smells a little bit burnt. I bought peppermint oil on accident. Nani had mint oil, which is a combination of spearmint and peppermint. And it's not oil, it's extract. So we're using a little bit extra. It's still really kind of too hot to work with, but if I don't touch it too much, maybe the tools touch it, maybe we can get this pulled a little bit easier. I thought my hands were a lot less sensitive than this, but I've gotten soft as the years have gone by. I'm wondering if maybe I cooked the sugar a little too long. It's in just like pieces. It's not going back together to be a mint, like a solid piece of candy. It kind of looks like hair. It's interesting looking. It's very, it's starting to get very hard and not going back together. So I guess I'm gonna just try and kind of put it together as much as I can and make what I can with it, and maybe we'll be having mint straw instead of what you would think of as pieces of candy. All right, we're starting to, I think we're cooling off enough that stretching is not happening much anymore. We're just starting to kind of crack and break. Let's get it in some powdered sugar and kind of see what we can do here with this mess. Like many of you probably, I am not super familiar with roasting a goose. It is not something I have ever done in my entire life. I've never worked with a goose before. Many of you have given me some great advice on how to work with this thing, and I have heard before that goose is very greasy, and so several of you said make sure to pierce the skin, and so I'm going to take some of that advice when we make this goose. However, I am still going to be following mostly the recipe as it was written, because that's the whole point of what we're doing here with this 52 Sunday Dinners project. So the very first thing it calls to do is to steam this bird for about an hour. And so I have a roasting pan here full of water. I have a rack, and underneath of the rack is a baking pan to catch the drippings. So hopefully it'll catch most of the drippings. We'll steam this bird and get some of the fat, I guess, off of it a little bit. And I guess we'll see in an hour or so what the steaming has done to it, and then we'll move forward. She is definitely greasy. Just pulling her out of her bag, her packaging. My hands are already nice and greased up, moisturized, lubricated. There's a lot of fat on this bird. All right, let's stuff this bird full of mashed potatoes. So weird. Okay, now what?
Now I would take this and this and tie them together here.
Should I tie them underneath of this?
I would tie them on top.
On top of it. Okay.
Like that, and then do the wings the same with the wings.
Okay.
Well, bring it here on the bottom.
Oh, on here. Like this?
Yeah.
As a little tailbone? There. How's that?
That looks good. Bring the thing right over here.
Like, put this under here?
Yeah.
Okay. And do this. Got it? Hold steady. All right. Beautiful. I'd high five you, but I have salmonella all over my hands.
Yeah.
All right. Need to clean those scissors. You just use both your hands, can't you? Oh, wait.
I didn't get dirty the other hand.
Oh.
I don't want to wear it out.
Now we are going to prick the skin of this, like several of you have told me, to let some of this fat drip out. Okay, there we are. I'm getting the beautiful ton of drippings and putting it in this jar. It's definitely not gonna fit all in this jar, but we're gonna fill this jar up first with what we have here. Woo! Oh boy. Oh, look at it glisten in there. That's gorgeous.
Oh yeah. Is there a lot of grease?
There is a lot of grease, yes. Powder this girl up.
And we're laughing like anything we're going to do.
Yeah.
It's just not like.
All right, she looks nice and powdered up. We're gonna put the 1.5 cups of hot water down in the bottom of this pan and pop her in the oven. It does not say whether to roast this covered or uncovered. I would assume they would want it covered. I don't know why I assume that, I just do. So we're going to cover it up and I guess check on it. And at the end, if it looks like it needs to be uncovered, we'll go ahead and uncover it. There really isn't any drippings in this pan left. Very few at the bottom. I saved all of the drippings from the steaming though and separated most of the fat out from the water. And so I think we'll use what I have from the steaming to make the gravy here. All right, it has been many hours today and several days in the making. This goose dinner, this is the one that I think I've been thinking about the whole time. This might have been the dinner that inspired me to start doing this whole project a little bit, with this cookbook at least. We're gonna go ahead and get started, and the first thing on this menu is the fruit cocktail. And I think it's kind of cute and interesting. They served it inside of the rind of the grapefruit. It smells very citrusy, and something I've never had with my fruit before is paprika. I don't taste the spices very strong in this, and maybe it's because the citrus in that grapefruit comes through so strong, but I don't really taste the spices. It's delicious. I think it was kind of cute that we skinned the grapes on this, and I assume probably back in the day, the skins on grapes would have been much thicker, and they were seeded in that time. When you were younger, Nani, do you remember grapes prior to seedless grapes and the skins that they had on them?
I don't really remember the skins, but I certainly remember the seeds.
Now, Big Red, I'm thinking about you with all of these peeled and skinned fruits and everything, so this is probably your kind of fruit salad. That grape feels so funny biting into it without the crunch of that skin. It just sort of falls apart in your mouth. I'm just so used to it snapping kind of and exploding a little bit. And so to just munch on it and have it just kind of mush in your mouth is fun. But I think this is a great way to start the meal. This is pretty exciting. So let's move on. And I know I'm sorry. I'm torturing you.
You are.
You can't eat this right now.
I'm hungry waiting for dinner and you're eating in front of me.
All right, we'll start with the goose now.
Oh, I wanted a cheese stick.
Well, cheese stick isn't yet. All right, just for you, we'll move around the regular. I'll let you pick your own.
I've been smelling these and I just wanted to taste it.
Okay. You picked the biggest one?
Well, naturally.
All right, the cheese sticks were fun.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely smells like cheddar. There's a lot of paprika on this too. What do you think?
I think they're good.
If you've been here before, you may recall that I hate making pie crust. I loathe it, in fact, and I am not good at it at all. Any pie crust I've ever made, even though I think the recipes probably aren't the best in this book, I have not succeeded in making a good pie crust yet. So I did use just store-bought pie crust for this, and you're welcome, because you probably didn't want to taste my pie crust trying this.
I thought I taught you how and I gave you a good pie crust recipe. What happened to it?
Well, your recipe is probably fine, and the way you make it is probably fine.
Oh.
It translates into these hands, and all of a sudden, it's a disaster.
I'll have to train you better.
If you ever get a piece of pizza, or you make a grilled cheese, and off to the side some cheese comes out and kind of burns in the pan, that's my favorite part. I love the burnt cheese. This reminds me of that a little bit. It has that nice, very, very cooked cheese flavor and that crunch to it. It is pretty darn good.
It really smells good.
It does smell really good. It looks like beef. More than it looks like fowl. All right. This is a disaster. Now, the recipe for the apple prune sauce also said that you could bake some apples and display them around the border of this, I almost said duck, goose. However, I did the same thing with the apples when I baked them as I did the last time, and this is what they look like. So I didn't think they'd look too pretty around the border. I bet we need a knife, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right, hold on, I'll go get a knife. Don't eat it yet.
I won't.
I just saw you eat it.
I didn't. I had apple in my mouth.
Oh, okay. And how was your apple?
My apple was very tasty.
Did it taste like an apple?
Yes, it did.
Let's try it just with the gravy a little bit. It smells like turkey and just there's something else that I smell in there. It's probably what a goose smells like. But
That didn't sound very good.
What didn't sound very good?
What a goose smells like.
No, I know they stink. Well, you just ate it. Tell us what you think.
Well, I kind of camouflaged it with both apple gravy and some of the prune sauce. So, but it tasted like. I mean, I thought that the meat was more dense than a chicken, chicken or turkey. More towards a beef, actually.
Yes.
And it doesn't excite me.
I like it with the apple prune.
Yes.
But maybe that's just because I like the apple prune so much. It's not greasy. I don't think that the meat tastes greasy at all. Do you?
No, I think because you did that steaming, I think that was an excellent idea.
Yeah. Now maybe there are some other things that could be done to improve the texture of a goose, but I will say for everyone saying how greasy it is, and you said when you had it, you remember it being very greasy. Steaming it for that first hour got most of that fat out of it, but it's like it almost needed some more inside of it. Like if you could get the fat from the outside to the inside, maybe it needed to be a little greasier than what it is on the inside. What do you think?
Maybe, and maybe sometimes when you're working with chicken or turkey, you have so many of the other, sage and rosemary and all of these flavors in there that I think make it more, I don't want to say palatable, but just make it very tasty. And this is more bland.
Now this was seasoned with salt and pepper, and I didn't use any other seasonings except, there's potatoes inside this thing. We forgot. We'll have to scoop some of those out and try that. There is sage in the potatoes, but I wasn't sure exactly what seasonings would go with a goose, and so I didn't add any extra seasoning to it. And maybe if I had, it would be a little bit better.
I think right now it's sort of just bland.
Yeah. It's just okay. It's not bad. It doesn't taste
bad. No, I mean, I expected it to be much worse. Sorry. I wasn't looking forward to Goose.
Okay.
But but
you ate it anyway?
Well, yes.
Aw. You're so sweet.
Well, I was going to try it. You know that I'm going to try everything anyway. But and I'm a daring kind of person anyway to start with.
That's true. All right, let's get some of these potatoes out of here. I forgot.
I know you're starving me here.
I know.
But if I had my druthers, I mean, I would. I prefer turkey or chicken to goose.
Whatever you just said, I did. If you had your what?
If I had my druthers.
What are druthers?
My choice.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry, I speak in an antique language.
Now the potatoes smell really good. I can smell the seasoning on the potatoes.
Yeah, I can smell the seasoning.
And pulling them out, you could see the fat on the potatoes. Can you taste it?
That must be another reason the potatoes probably absorb some of that fat.
The potatoes are really good. I have never in my life considered stuffing a bird full of potatoes instead of stuffing. But it might be a new thing. This might be another sleeper recipe. All right, the sweet potatoes. They smell really good. And that brown sugar butter paste that I was kind of slapping on there and moisturizing it in had me very excited.
So I want to know what you put the cream celery on.
I'm not done telling them about this yet.
Oh, well, I'm anxious.
You have to wait your turn.
Oh, okay. Well, if you stop leaving me out of these.
I know, you're right. You're right. You want to taste a little end?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I just have to complain.
I know. I used a coarse ground pepper on this, so the sweetness of the sweet potatoes already added to that brown sugar coating in the butter, and then you crunch into that like thick fleck of black pepper, adds a really nice spice to that afterward. This is delicious. Well, the cream celery, I don't know if it's supposed to be thicker or if it's supposed to be a cream of celery soup, but normally the soups are the starters, so I wouldn't think so. It's not very thick. It smells way stronger of onion than it does celery. Now, the recipe called for me to put just a slice of onion in the milk to cook it in, but I know we like onion a lot, so I might have put the whole onion in the milk to cook. But it was strange.
I get a strong celery taste.
I haven't tasted it yet. I'm just smelling. But definitely strong of onion.
I'm tasting celery. What do you taste?
I taste onion and milk.
Oh.
I mean, I taste celery, but I don't taste it strong.
Oh, see, I do. I don't taste the onion at all.
It would make sense that you'd taste the celery much more. But that's so interesting how two different people eating the exact same meal in the exact same setting are getting two different flavor profiles off of it.
That's the way the world goes.
I know. When I made the cakes and pulled them out, I was so excited. They were beautiful. They were perfect. And then I started making the icing. It's not as pretty as the pictures that I looked online, and something different when I looked up this cake compared to their recipe. It seems like traditionally in between the layers is the fruit and the nuts, not the icing.
That's what I remember.
Okay. You don't remember all this mess looking like this?
I remember that was in between.
Yes. So let's see. Hopefully it tastes better than what I think it looks. You said you don't think it looks too terrible. Are you changing your mind now?
No, I think it looks nice.
Okay. Speaking of looking nice, how cute. This little server here matches this cake plate. Here is what it looks like, in between. You can kind of see the filling in between the layers, but not distinctly.
That's the best smell.
I know. I smell the figs very strong. I want to taste, because I'm afraid that the icing is going to not be good. So I want to taste the bottom cake layer without the filling or the icing. Ooh, that cake smells delicious.
Very moist.
Oh, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, I think for the very first time, I have successfully baked a recipe on this 52 Sunday Dinners project. This might be the first successful baked good recipe that I've done, and that cake is delicious. It's light, it's fluffy, it's moist. Ooh, and on the bottom I can taste the figs, whatever that fig flavor that infused with this icing.
The icing's good.
Let's try the filling.
Can't beat figs.
The icing tastes really good. The fruits and the nuts in there, they taste phenomenal. The cake looks, now you think it looks nice.
I think it looks nice.
I think it looks, well, I won't say because we're eating the cake. I don't think it looks nice, but it tastes very nice.
I think it looks nice. I mean, it looks more like a cake that has more of a glaze than a frosting coming down the side. But it's very attractive. Its presentation, I think, is excellent.
Well, it must be
And
good.
you know I tell you if it didn't look nice.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It must be pretty good because you'd tell me if it was ugly. Now, we're skipping the brick ice cream because there's just so much food already.
Mm.
I don't even know if I'd want ice cream with this.
I don't think so.
I think ice cream might take away from it. I don't know who Lady Baltimore was, but
I remember reading the story years ago, but I really don't remember it now.
Well, I'm grateful to her for her cake. You guys have seen the after dinner mint results. Nani has not seen them yet, so this will be her first time checking them out. So we'll see what she thinks of them.
You know, this was really a very good meal, except that Goose is probably not one of my favorites.
Okay.
But certainly the world goes around because everybody has different favorites.
That's true. That's very true.
So.
Okay, now close your eyes. Okay, go ahead and look at them.
Is that the way they were supposed to be?
Well, I don't think so. What do you think?
What did the instructions say?
Well, the instructions said to let them cool a little bit and then pull them until they got light. And then after they get light, to stretch them into long strips and cut them into 1-inch pieces. And so I did that, except as they were getting light, they were just stringing out and not forming back together. And it seemed like they were forming more of like hay or straw or hair.
I'm not eating hair, so don't tell me I'm eating hair now.
I said it looked like hair. I didn't say it was hair, you jerk.
It almost looks like they may have been done too much.
Okay. That's kind of what I thought too. Maybe they got too high of a temperature.
Very interesting.
Ooh, the texture is fun. I like the little, it's almost a little bit like ribbon candy. Like that thin.
Somewhat.
Not quite, but somewhat, yeah. With the thicker pieces, I can taste the molasses. Not so much with the thinner pieces. I like the touch of molasses in there. I've not...
I like molasses in anything.
Yes, yeah, I agree. I don't think I've ever had a candy with, or a hard candy like this, a mint candy with molasses in it, but somehow it works really well. Those of you at home who make candy, who do things like this, who have experience and are either laughing very hard at this or shaking your head, tell us what we did wrong. We're suspecting we cooked it too high of a temperature. Is that right? And for everyone who is watching this and wants to try it themselves, let us know in the comments so that when they go to try it, they can figure out how to correct it. This is where we give the overview, general overview of what we think of the whole menu.
You're asking me first?
I'm asking, yeah, they want to hear from you.
I thought that, well, I didn't eat the fruit cocktail, so I can't comment on that. As I previously said, I wasn't really looking forward to eating goose, but I was willing to try it. I thought it was somewhat bland. And the potatoes inside were good, quite a novelty, something that I had never ever heard of before. And of course I love the apples. The apple sauce is good. The cream of celery, I liked it. I probably would have liked that as a little soup or something to begin with. And the cake, what can I say? That cake was outstanding. Couldn't believe the cake. Of course, I love figs. I grew up as a little girl with my father had a fig tree in the backyard that he would bury every winter so that he could bring it back again because we live in the north. But I've always been a fig person. So much so that my husband, if he would see figs in the market, would always bring them home because he knew how much I loved them. So I really enjoyed that cake and the fig. And the texture of the cake was unbelievable. It was really, I'll tell you, much better than any bakery cake. Yeah, it was just reminded me of the old-fashioned cakes we would eat when we were growing up. But that's my review.
Ooh.
I also like the prune sauce, the prune applesauce, which was an added touch, and I think at least it added a dimension to the goose that made it, for me, a little bit more tolerable.
And what about the mince?
Well, the mints are very interesting,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's like all of these dishes because we're talking 1924. Yeah, and not that I was around in 1924, but I can remember the stories my mother would tell, and they certainly didn't have the accommodations that we have nowadays. It was.
The goose was better than I expected, but still not my favorite. And this, I know we're talking about how it was a little bland. Something that you guys talked about before this meal, we went in when we did the live last week, we talked a little bit about how the goose would have probably been either a wild goose or just much gamier than what this goose, these are domesticated farmed geese that they're producing. And so the flavor is much more mild, probably a little more bland. It would have been much more bold and gamier back in the day. And so I guess that's something to consider when we're looking at some of these recipes. Still, the goose, it was okay. I can't remember what I said this goose cost on the last few times we've talked about this. But I went back for accuracy's sake because sometimes the things in my head I'm remembering aren't all that accurate. I'm sure you can attest to that.
I just like, yeah, I was trying to keep my mouth shut, but I was thinking it certainly.
I went back in my records just to make sure because I wanted to give you guys an accurate representation of how much this meal cost. The goose was $109. So I think I might have estimated it a little bit higher initially. Not to say, oh, the goose was only $109. Like, that's not a lot of money. But it was $109. The rest of this meal, and we didn't have the almonds, we didn't have the brick ice cream, and we did not have the stuffed olives. So to add those in with everything else, we're probably looking at $200 to $300 for this meal. Now, the nutrient profile on this, I kind of want to say it doesn't matter. This is a bigger holiday meal and something that unless you have some sort of a medical condition, a medical diet that you're following for health reasons, the nutrient profile for a holiday meal where you're building memories, it just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that there's a ton of processed sugars. It doesn't matter that some of these are empty calories and there wasn't as much protein and that the goose has more fat than a lean protein. It just doesn't matter because these are the meals that you're building memories around. And we haven't talked about it yet as we're filming, but we will have talked about it already by the time this comes out, about our holiday memories, Thanksgiving memories, things that we failed at, things that we remember, things that mean a lot to us. And if there are certain foods that make you think about loved ones, either still living and with us or no longer with us, then the extra calories and the low fiber and the low vitamins and minerals in a food, they just don't matter, because what matters is that memory between you and that loved one.
Well, it's a perfect way of thinking because the memories, and I can attest to that when you've reached my age, that those memories are very important. And the important thing is, please let everyone talk about those memories because they're very important. They're very important for young people to hear them because I sort of regret. I keep saying, why didn't I ask my parents this question? Or why didn't I ask my parents that question? I mean, the one thing that really, really gnaws at me is that my father was 15 years old, came from Italy on a boat in 1908, and I never asked him about that boat ride, what it was like or anything like that. It just never occurred to me to ask him, but how I wish I had. I've been very fortunate because my grandchildren keep asking me to tell them stories and they listen to me. I don't know if they're just being nice to me, but no, I don't think so because they really beg me for these stories. But a lot of my friends say that, their grandchildren don't want to hear a thing, and that's sad because you regret it later in life. So enjoy all those memories that you're making now and keep them locked up there in this little head of yours, and will you like it when you start pulling them forth years from now?
That was beautiful. Yeah, that was beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you.
My goodness. Oh, I'm here.
I don't know if I can take this.
If you enjoyed what you saw, if you liked the bantering here, join us next week where we start December's menu. And would you like to tell them a little bit, give a little sampling of what we'll be having?
Oh, you're making me do all this talking and I'm so bashful.
Clearly.
See, I mean, you give me Goose and then you get the more interesting things.
Well, if you come back, you can have it.
Yeah.
Well, no, you can't because we already made it.
You already made it.
Yes.
Oh, I'm looking ahead. She's trying to tempt me so that I will stay down there longer.
Talk her into it. Everyone, flood the comments letting her know that you want to see more of her in my kitchen. We have to convince her to come spend more time with us. So Tori and I have already recorded this, and you'll see us making this a few weeks ago. But join us next week where Tori and I make boiled chicken with egg and parsley sauce and an orange pudding. See you next week.
Bye.
You gotta make me some space on there if you want it.
I'd like to offer you a challenge.
That you do.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's cold. Is that it?
It's
room
cold?
Temperature.
Well, it was hot earlier.
Oh,
Do you want me
sorry.
To... No, that's okay. Do you want me to heat it up for you?
No, it's fine.
All right, are you ready for the after dinner mince?
Oh, yes, I've been waiting for that. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now, whoa. Something just happened with the lighting. Grandpa's messing with us here.
Mm-hmm.
I would never in my life make this candy again unless it's in another recipe and it calls for it or somebody asks me to do it.
How about making some more of that candy for me? You left yourself wide open.
Why don't you make some of that candy for me?